So Lamar Jackson gets honest with the media ahead of a very familiar matchup with the Los Angeles Chargers on Monday Night Football. The Ravens coordinators, Todd Monken and Zach Orr, addressed the media as well. And the Browns, last night on Thursday Night Football, take down the Steelers to help the Baltimore Ravens in their playoff divisional race. We also got a deep dive into playoff scenarios and odds for the Ravens. And they had a snow practice today during practice and preparation for a Monday Night Football game against the Chargers in a massive primetime audience with playoff implications. We got all that and more, an absolutely loaded episode for you guys today. So welcome into another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy Noah here with For the Flock, as always, bringing you guys our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Ravens today. We got good news, bad news, all that in between, man. Let's dive into the content. At number 1, let's get the bad news out of the way. Roquan Smith not likely to play in this matchup on Monday Night Football, is yet to practice after leaving early against the Steelers with a hamstring injury. Travis Jones also has not touched the practice field. And then, if that wasn't enough, Tyler Linderbaum, the starting center, got added to the injury report and is missing in Friday's practice. If Roquan Smith can't go against the Chargers, with a really good rushing attack led by Greg Roman and J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, man, it's definitely going to be a big blow to the Ravens, but Malik Harrison would likely get the start, and Zach Orr said today that Kyle Hamilton would wear the green dot for play calling. And at number 2, speaking of Zach Orr, I want you guys to listen what he had to say on Tre'Davious White, who the Baltimore Ravens traded for from the LA Rams before the trade deadline, adding a veteran corner to the secondary that was struggling. And I think he's brought a presence, a calming down type of presence to the defense where he's confident. And then Zach Orr talks about how he's been speaking in the meeting rooms, and he's played some really good football. 2 big pass breakups against George Pickens against the Steelers. In his limited action, Zach Orr says that he's earned more playing time. Here's what he had to say.
Oh, yeah, definitely. When you can make plays on the football and compete at that type of level, you definitely earned your way for some more snaps. And I'm real pleased with Trey, how he's came in, how he's worked so hard to learn the playbook, and he's been vocal in the meetings, which I appreciate. So he's a pro. I see why everybody we talk to about him likes him and say that you guys will like him in y'all building. So I'm pleased, and I'm eager to see where he's going to take this.
And speaking of this secondary, Kyle Hamilton, and Darius Washington were both moved to the starting, deep safety roles. Kyle Hamilton playing the traditional safety role that he played a lot of in college before the Ravens moved him all around and, had him as a dime linebacker at times, as a slot corner, as a strong safety, as a deep safety. Different roles for Kyle Hamilton. He's excited to be back at deep safety. And then our Darius Washington had a really strong performance. Anytime he's been on the field, man, he makes his presence felt. The Ravens made this move after benching Eddie Jackson and Marcus Williams because the safety play was not good enough, letting guys run past them for deep touchdowns. Here's what Kyle Hamilton had to say on this switch up with Darius Washington.
Yeah, I think in my 3 years here, AD has been one of the more resilient people on the team. He's had injuries. He's had times where he might not have been in rotation. He's had times where he was put in the rotation, had another injury. And he's just been super consistent ever since I've been here. And to see him get an opportunity and excel with the opportunity, I think he's not just back there. I think he's back there making plays and doing his job at a high level. So super happy for him, and just thankful I get to play beside somebody like that and have somebody who's as much of a professional as he is to maybe not be in the position that he wanted to be in at the start of the season. We're getting down to the crunch time of the season, and he's a big part of our defense. So I'm just happy for him, excited.
At number 3, the Browns do the Baltimore Ravens a major favor in beating the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday Night Football. The Ravens now have a 46% chance of winning their division. That went up from about 30% before the Steelers lost that football game. So it's about 50-50 right now between who wins the AFC North, between the Ravens and the Steelers. It's really probably going to come down to the rematch the Ravens and Steelers have. If the Ravens beat the Steelers, I think they're going to win the division. They could still win the division without it, but they would need Pittsburgh to drop a few games, and they definitely have a tough schedule. Pittsburgh has to play Cincinnati twice and play Kansas City, but remind you that the Ravens still have to play the Philadelphia Eagles, the Chargers, Pittsburgh again, and the Texans, so they don't have an easy schedule either. Here's a look at the odds. The Baltimore Ravens actually do have the 3rd highest odds to win the Super Bowl out of the AFC, behind the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, who the Ravens have played both of those teams. The Ravens blew out the Buffalo Bills, and it went down to the wire against the Chiefs. The Ravens are absolutely capable of beating both of these teams. They've already beat one. They haven't beat the Chiefs often, but in those games they've lost to the Chiefs, they've had a lot of self-inflicted wounds, penalties, turnovers, stuff like that. The Ravens are absolutely capable of getting through this AFC en route to a Super Bowl this year. And at number 4, one guy that would have to be a big part of the reason why the Ravens make it to the Super Bowl, if they can do that, would be Zay Flowers. I want you guys to see that he actually has the most forced missed tackles among all wide receivers this season. He's also top 5 in receiving yards this season. In the offseason, I made a statement that Zay Flowers would have around 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. He would be an alpha dog, number 1 wide receiver that the Ravens have not drafted in like the history of their franchise. And I said, I think Zay's going to be the best receiver we've ever drafted. And I got some pushback on that, and I was told that I was a homer. But here we sit with Zay Flowers top 5 as a top 5 receiver right now in the National Football League. And he leads all wide receivers in enforcing missed tackles. I think he's going to have a big game against the Chargers on Monday Night Football. I mean, I think he's going to have like 120-plus yard type of performance against a very zone-heavy defense. And Zay Flowers has been very good at sitting down and finding the soft spots in the zone this year, and also running past people, making guys miss like we just talked about. But he's also going to be opposite of Elijah Molden in this matchup, and I think that matchup's going to be won by Zay Flowers. At number 5, Lamar Jackson talks about several topics, and we'll kind of play a clip for you, talk about it a little bit, and we'll go through a couple of clips because there's a couple of things I want to capture. But first of all, let's talk about what Lamar Jackson had to say on the familiarity of the Baltimore Ravens playing the Chargers with several guys that are former Ravens. Here's what he had to say.
What about the fact there are so many connections on that team, though, that you think about J.K. and Gus, Bose all playing there. Yeah. Guys that have, if you weren't back, probably wanted to be here, but weren't allowed, to get offered to come back.
Yeah.
The extra motivation they may have against you, you feel that? How do you, you're not obviously defending them, but just team-wise, you sense what that means?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I know guys going to try to get after it. Those guys going to get after it. But I don't have to try to stop those guys, so I'm not worried about it. I'm going to be worried about putting points on the board. But it's going to be great to see those guys. I just don't want them to have a good game against us.
So this is not an exhaustive list, but the familiarity is very strong here. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh's brother. Joe Ortiz was the director of scouting and Ravens personnel last season and the last several years. He's now the GM for the Chargers. The offensive coordinator for the Chargers is Greg Roman, who was the Ravens coordinator for several years. They got Jesse Minter, the familiarity there. J.K. Dobbins, Hayden Hurst, and Gus Edwards were all either drafted or brought in as undrafted free agent rookies to the Ravens, so a lot of familiarity there. Bradley Bozeman as well. So many guys in the Chargers have played for the Ravens, and he says, hey, I'm not going against those guys. They're all on offense, but he does acknowledge that they're going to want to try to get back at these Baltimore Ravens for not bringing them back, even if they wanted to come back. And he also talked about consistency. The last few weeks, the offense has gotten off to a slow start. Against the Bengals, they didn't get off hot, but they ended up finishing hot and obviously won the game that way. Against the Steelers, didn't get off to a zipping, humming type of start and putting up points on the board. They had a fumble in the first drive by Derrick Henry after, moving the football a little bit there. He was asked about that consistency of getting going early in games, and here's what he had to say.
Just being consistent. When we're doing things out there on that field, we got to be consistent, and that's what we're chasing. And we're not doing a good job at being consistent. We having our moments where going to the game, scoring first drive. And it's been a couple weeks we haven't been scoring first drive. And it's just been taking us a little while to get our groove, and we got to work on that. That's the biggest thing for us right now, just being consistent. Like I said earlier, just putting points on the board, because that's our job.
So I feel like we're due for a Derrick Henry game where, he just takes over the football game. He breaks the back of your defense. Feels like, he's been bundled up a little bit. He hasn't had a ton of carries in the last few games, but I feel like we're going to get that Derrick Henry breakout. Hey, if he wants to reserve it for the playoffs, that's cool too, man, because that's what really matters. Once you get into the dance, I don't care if we get in as a 7 seed. If Derrick Henry and the Ravens are going off, and getting momentum, they'll let it ride all the way to the Super Bowl. I don't care what seed they get if they're winning and performing. But, hey, I think consistency was lost a little bit after the Ravens offense was really, really hot. They got slowed down a little bit, especially last week against the Steelers with one of their worst offensive performances. Obviously, the turnovers and the penalties don't help. But here, Lamar Jackson also talked about his success on Monday Night Football, or actually didn't even really acknowledge it. Here's what he had to say.
I'm not going to recite it. You've had tremendous success, though, on Monday Night Football. Is there something that you embrace about that, or do you realize, are you aware of the success you've had?
Nah, I'm not aware at all. I'm just playing football. It's something I love. Just trying to win. That's all.
I love how humble Lamar Jackson is with not acknowledging his accolades. He's just like, yeah, I don't really know that I'm successful on Monday Night. I'm just playing football. I just love football. And when he's out there having fun playing football, it's very evident. And he talked about what he was thankful for. We got Thanksgiving and the holidays coming up here. He acknowledges God and what he's grateful for. Here's what he had to say.
Great health, family, been in the National Football League. Thank God. God first, that's no brainer. But you guys, man, I appreciate y'all, man. I just love life. I'm thankful for life.
All right, guys. So we got a great weekend of NFL football coming up. If you guys don't know, my wife is due with our 4th child any day now. She's actually past her due date. So any day now, baby number 4 is going to be coming into the world. And this is the first time that we decided that we weren't going to find out the gender. We're just going to wait until baby came out to know if it's a boy or a girl. So we're excited. There's that aspect of it. So if for whatever reason I don't upload for a few days, it might be because baby came and I'm at the hospital or whatever. So man, I just want to thank the For the Flock family that's faithfully been subscribed, liking the videos, watching, enjoying, interacting as a For the Flock family, football family in the comments, man, and especially all the patrons as well that have been supporting. I appreciate every single one of you. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.
Ray, when he wasn't looking, he ran me over.